Hi everyone. So today we just wanted to talk about some Facebook lead generation strategies that you could try. Now, as most of you would know, Facebook as a platform has billions of users, and oftentimes a lot of people will come to us and say, "Hey, what are some of the things we can do on Facebook to try and help generate leads?" Now, the first thing we tend to ask people when we hear this sort of question is to ask, is your audience on Facebook? And if the answer is yes, then naturally the next question we tend to ask ourselves is, okay, well, how do we find those people on Facebook? Now, I should probably say, first of all, Facebook as a platform is not known for B2B targeting, right? So number one, Facebook is really, really good if you're a B2C company and you're targeting B2C audiences, right? So, a typical example, a dentist, restaurant, e-commerce company, Facebook is perfect for you. Not just Facebook, the sort of Facebook platforms will be perfect for you. For example, Instagram. However, on a B2B side, the targeting options aren't that great because Facebook has very specific targeting, which again are very much related to a B2B segment, right? So like interest, demographics, etc., which are generally much more suited for B2C type organizations. So what to do? There are billions of people on Facebook. So what can you do to leverage this massive platform on Facebook? So one of the first things we tend to advise people to do is to use Facebook more as a demand generation channel. Now, another way to put it is to view Facebook as more of an awareness building platform. Secondly, you want to use Facebook more as a content amplification platform, right? So for example, you could target people who have visited your website before on Facebook by building an audience list on Facebook. Also, you could target semi-broadly. You could target based on industry, for example. So if you've got content that you want to promote, you could promote, again, more building awareness for your brand on Facebook, using people from specific industries. Now, the power of Facebook's targeting, which I personally like and I tend to encourage a lot of our clients to use, is the targeting around specific pages that people like. So for example, let's say you've got a SaaS or software as a service product targeting CEOs. And of course, on Facebook, you can't target by company size, for example. So all you could do is target people who follow specific pages. Now, let's assume most CEOs would follow certain people, depending on the sort of type of CEO. So, for example, if I'm a CEO, I might be following Tim Ferriss or Tony Robbins, for example. So then you could target people who follow these types of pages, right? That's not to say every single person who followed these sort of pages is going to be a CEO, but you're going to have a section of those people being CEOs, for example, or specifically personal development type pages. Most CEOs are avid readers, so you bet they're going to be reading certain books. So you want to target those publications that produce those books, or those authors that produce those books, right? That way, you're more likely to target their followers, and by extension, those CEOs that follow those people, right? So the last and final tip I wanted to give, which is probably the most effective that we've seen so far, is to use Facebook as an audience building platform and then target on Facebook. What do I mean? So most of us use tools such as ZoomInfo, Dun & Bradstreet or DMB these days, Apollo, Adapt, Cognism, Inside View, you name it. Most of us have sales teams that use these platforms. Lusher is another one that use these platforms to prospect for leads, right? And then the idea is you make phone calls to these leads in the hope of converting. Now, One thing we've seen working for companies, I also forgot to mention, there's Clearbit, which has a dedicated tool for exactly what we're going to talk about here. Now, most companies would pay sales teams, however much they pay sales teams, and then people would prospect on these sales prospecting tools and hope to convert somebody. Now, and oftentimes that works just fine, but a second stage in that evolution of sales prospecting tools is to introduce the data you collect from these sales prospecting tools as a marketing tool, or even as a sales and marketing tool. So what do we mean? So, if let's say you've gone onto any one of these platforms, you've profiled your ideal customer. Let's say you're looking for CEOs. You've pulled a list of CEOs based in a specific country, based in a specific industry, based in a specific job title, company size, etc., etc. Now you've built your audience. Next up, what you want to do is to download your audience and then export your audience into a platform such as Facebook. Now, of course, if you're using Clearbit, you can build that audience directly inside of Clearbit and then export that audience into Facebook. So then what you would have is you'd have the targeting option you had from your sales prospecting tool now inside of Facebook. So at this point, you could then serve ads to that particular audience on Facebook. So one thing that we see to sort of tend to work quite well is when sales teams are prospecting on one hand, and then the audience sees adverts on Facebook on the other hand. It just reinforces the message and it creates that familiarity of the brand, right? So when a salesperson calls, suddenly it doesn't seem like what's this company and why have they called me? It sort of rings a bell in the mind of the customer, and that tends to help. I hope this was useful. All the best. Try it out. Let us know if you have any questions, and we hope to speak to you soon. Thank you. Bye bye.